Hello class, this is Demetrius Wilson with BA 156, Motivational Skills, Business Communications for Success. We are now on Chapter 15, Business Presentation in Action, and it is our last and final chapter for the semester. Our learning objectives for the chapter are: discuss elements that make a sound bite effective, choose a sound bite or quote from a written or verbal message, prepare a quote that is memorable, demonstrate the 5 stages in a telephone conversation, understand delivery strategies to increase comprehension and reduce misunderstanding, and discuss meetings and their role in business communication. Additional learning objectives: describe the main parts of an agenda, discuss several strategies for effective meetings. I think this is a component that is missing from a lot of companies. Discuss the role, function, and importance of a toast. Discuss the elements of an effective toast. Discuss the purpose of the media interview. Understand the ways to prepare for a media interview. Additional learning objectives are: understand how to introduce a speaker in a courteous and professional manner. Discuss the purpose of an award, and describe the process of presenting an award. Describe the process of accepting an award, and discuss the role of a Masters of Ceremonies or a MC. More learning objectives: understand the responsibilities of the Master of Ceremonies, discuss the elements of a viral message, and understand strategies to develop effective viral messages. All right, so let's start with sound bites. Soundbite is a brief statement that zeroes in on the point of a larger or a longer message, right? So a brief soundbite gets people interested, lets them know what you're speaking of, but typically you want to make sure that's something that's very memorable so it gets people's attention. Characteristics of effective soundbite should be clear and concise. Use vivid, dynamic language, right? Like I said, you want to draw people in, get their attention. Should be easy to repeat, should be memorable, and should have a slogan in there. Quotes are memorable sayings extracted from written or verbal messages, and a lot of times you see those. I know at a former place of employment, at my desk, I had all these great quotes written, and every time I got a new one from like somebody sent me a quote of the day, I would cut it out, I would put it up there, and they were always good to look at. So stages in a telephone conversation. So when you speak with someone, you typically have stages in a conversation whether you know it or not. And we're going to show you what those stages are, and not that you should sound robotic on the phone, but we're going to show you how it typically flows. You have your opening, you have your feed forward, conducting the business of, what are we going to speak of and do you have time? The actual business of the conversation, feedback, that goes both ways, and the closing of the conversation. So I want you guys to pause on all of these slides and look over them, but I also want, to give you a little intro on how it works. So the stage is the opening. Both parties identify themselves. I'm Demetrius, you're John. Greetings are reciprocated. Phone rings. Hello. Ken says hello. Ken Riley. Val says, hi, Ken. This is Val Martin from, ABC Company. How are you? Fine. How are you? Fine, I'm doing great, right? So you get those openings out of the way. Then you go to your feed forward, which is the purpose and the tone of the conversation, permission to continue, right? So Val, I'd hate to bother you, but I wonder if you have 5 minutes to give me some advice. So either I have 5 minutes or I don't, and that's the information I'm going to relay to you. Sure, Val, what's happening? Or I'm tied up right now. Can I call you back in a couple of minutes, right? So I've just given you an overview of how it works. I want you to pause on the next couple slides too. So the opening, look at the sub-events, and then look at the actual example, and you'll say, oh yeah, this is how a conversation goes. And not, like I said, not that we should be robotic, but you should know and understand how conversations go over the phone. So then I want you to look at the business of the actual call, the feedback that happens, and the closing, and then you're good for the 5 stages of a telephone conversation. So here's some tips. After you know and understand how a telephone conversation flows, here are some tips for effective telephone conversations. You want to make sure that you speak slowly and articulate your words clearly. If people have to keep asking you what you said, then there's probably either a problem with your enunciation or there's a problem with the phone line, right? So you want to speak slowly and articulate everything that you say. You want to use vivid terms to create interest and communicate descriptions, right? So you want to paint that picture. You want to be very specific. Show considerations for others by keeping your phone conversations private, right? You don't want to sit there and conduct a business meeting right in the middle of, in the middle of a restaurant, right? Where people are trying to enjoy and have conversations themselves. You want to silence cell phones, pagers, if anyone has a pager, and other devices when you're in a meeting or sharing a meal with colleagues, right? So you want to make sure that you turn those off because you don't want to be distracted. So meetings, and like I said, having effective meetings and having agendas and things like that, I think that's something that's missing from mostly all companies that I've been at in various departments. Some companies, in certain departments, they have it down pat. Others just don't. And I've gone places and, turn that around. Some places harder than others. So group communication in action around a defined agenda, right? You should have an agenda at a set time for an established duration. Like company I used to work for, used to be on Fridays at 8 o'clock in the morning from 8 to 9. So the agenda elements, right? So you want to have your title header, your participants, right? These are the people who are coming to the meeting, your subject line, what's, Friday meeting, call to order, who will, call the meeting to order. That was me. Introductions, is everyone new? And then, if we need to introduce somebody that was newly hired, and then the roll call just to make sure that all the, desired parties are there. So also pause on this one, but you should go pretty quick. Just look at the term, look at the definition. Reading of the minutes, old business, and then you get into your new business, your reports, good of the order, and then adjournment means that now the meeting is over. They talk about writing, clear, copious notes, but typically these days people just type them. So I also want you to pause and go through this one. This one's a little easier to go through, and this one might take a couple more minutes for you to know and understand. Strategies for effective meetings. You want to send out the last meeting minutes 1 week before the next meeting. You want to send out the agenda for the current meeting at least 1 week in advance, and that's not always going to happen, but you do want to get it out in advance. Send out reminders for the meeting the day before and the day of the meeting. Well, if your meeting's right at 8 o'clock and everybody gets in at 8 o'clock, that's not going to happen either. These are ideal things. They're not things that necessarily always happen in business, in real life. Schedule the meeting in Outlook or a similar program so everyone receives a reminder, right? And they'll let you know if they can attend or not. Start and end your meeting on time. Like, you don't want to be the person who starts your meeting late or the person who ends your meeting late as well, because that's not good. It's not professional. Things happen, but if you're the person who starts your meeting late every time, or you're the person who ends your meeting late every time, or you're the person that does both every single time, then you need to make some adjustments. You want to make sure the participants know their role and requirements prior to the meeting, right? So if you have to have a separate conversation, then do that. Make sure all participants know one another before the discussion starts, right? You want to make some necessary introductions if that's necessary. Formal communication styles in reference to the agenda can help reinforce the time frame and task. Follow Robert's rules of order, so you might want to look that up when applicable, or at least be familiar with them. Additional strategies for effective meetings. You want to make sure the notes are taken at the meeting are legible and can be converted to minutes for distribution later. Like I said, some people may be, but typically they're not writing anymore. And if they are writing, they're writing on iPad and changing that and print that out. It's typically going to be typing when they're taking notes. Keep the discussion on track, right? Some people veer left, some people veer right. You got to bring them back on track. If you're the chair or leader of the meeting, don't hesitate to restate a point, to interject, or redirect the attention back to the next agenda point, right? So like I said, we got to get people back on track. Say, hey, we're running out of time. We need to go to item number 4 as opposed to item number 3. If you are the chair, draw a clear distinction between on-topic discussions and those that are more personal, individual, or off-topic, right? Cut the stuff. You guys, let's not veer off the path just because you want to be entertained. Let's stay on the task and stay focused on the clear topic that we're working with. Communicate your respect and appreciation for everyone's time and effort, right? So you respect that, appreciate their time, that the fact that they're there and they're spending their time to typically look at or watch a presentation that you're going to be giving. You want to make sure that you let everybody know that you appreciate that. Clearly communicate the time, date, and location or means of contact for the next meeting, right? So you want to make sure that everybody knows. Sometimes people just say, okay, meeting during this and that, and then the next time they have a meeting somewhere else, you need to make sure that everybody knows the time, date, and location or means of contact for the next meeting. Now, I bet you didn't think that you were going to learn about giving toast and roast and everything else in this class, but it's really good to know and understand how to do this, not get up at a wedding and freeze, know what you're doing. Formal expression of goodwill, appreciation, or cause for group attention to an issue or person in a public setting, often followed by a synchronous consumption of beverage, typically a toast with champagne. They serve to unify the group. Everybody comes together. Everybody's more happy, when it comes to toast. Acknowledge a person or event. Mark a special occasion. And encourage the consumption of alcohol. Just consider the consumption of a drink. Stand with proper posture when you propose a toast. So you want to make sure that you're not slumped over, right? That you're fully erect and standing up tall when you're speaking with people, especially in front of a group. Raise your glass, raise your voice, and make a brief statement complimenting the person being honored, right? And remember, brief or as long as intended. Keep your toast brief. Do not talk about yourself instead of the honoree. A lot of times people want to get up there and talk about themselves. Remember, it's not about you, it's about them. The beverage and the quantity to be swallowed during the toast reflects the group norms and customs, right? Obviously, it doesn't want to be too much, right? And a roast is a public proclamation that honor someone by ridiculing or criticizing them. It's not an opportunity to say something mean. It honors someone in a position of power or influence by allowing them to demonstrate that they can take a joke at their own expense gracefully. In media interviews, discussion involving questions and answers for the purpose of a broadcast or publication. Rules of the interview. Anything you say can and often will be used against you, so make sure you're saying the right things. Never say anything you would not feel comfortable hearing quoted out of context on the evening news, right? So like they say, if you do something, don't do it unless you want to see it on the front page of the newspaper in your local town. And that's pretty good about deterring people from doing things. Be prepared for the unexpected as well as the expected, right? It's always unexpected. We always get surprised by things. Interview preparation factors, right? So these were very, very important. So your topic, your time, your format, and your background, right? So what will the scope of the interview be? So I want you to pause it here and go over all these, but I'm going to give you a short overview. So what's the scope of the interview? What's this going to be about? What are the topics? What topics are off the table that they shouldn't ask, which you can arrange ahead of time. Time, what's the time frame or limit? This is a 15-minute interview. This is a 30-minute interview. Everyone needs to know. The format, how will you be interviewed? Will it be through audio or video? So am I just talking on the phone, or can I see you, or am I in the booth with you, or over the internet or telephone or in person? Background, what's the backstory of the interview? Is there a specific issue or incident, right? So you want to know those things, ahead of time. So topic, time, format, and background. So introducing a speaker establishes the person's credibility, motivates audience interest, and says what the speaker could not say. Right? So, a lot of times you want to get up and say, hey, this guy that, he's doing a guest lecture in my class. Let me tell you about him and his experience. Now introducing guy ABC or girl ABC. Start with a quote from a speaker's work or a quote from a publication or colleague describing them, right? So you want to kind of build people up. Find some new information about the speaker to share and be brief, right? Keep it short and simple. Establish the speaker's credibility while motivating interest. Like, oh, who is this guy? Who's going to come out? So then also, you may present an award, and I've, presented awards and also introduce people. But there's steps to that as well. So you have preparation, you have focus, you have your surprise approach, your direct approach, and exit. So at preparation, you want to verify the recipient's name, correct title, all that stuff. So you want to just prepare for that part. Focus, you want to keep the focus on the honoree, like you said before, not on yourself. The surprise approach kind of builds suspense by listing the winning accomplishments from general to more specific, right? So you want to kind of build it up and then finally announce that person's name. The direct approach is announce award winner and follow with a list of his or her accomplishments, right? So you know who that person is, and you validate what their accomplishments are. Might make you feel more adept to listen to them. And then your exit, you want to step aside and let the honoree have the spotlight. You don't want to stay up there and get the spotlight yourself. It's about bring the other person in to allow them to communicate. So if you're an accepting award, so let's flip it around. I'm giving an award, you're accepting it. You want to say thank you, of course, like when you accept an award. You want to talk about the relevance. You want to indicate where credit is due and what award means to you and how it relates to the awarding organization in your community, right? So you want to talk about relevance. And you want to talk about acknowledgement. You want to show your honor with dignity and respect as you say thank you again and exit the stage, right? So it's about one, presenting an award. Two, you want to also know how to accept an award as well. A master of ceremony is a person designated to conduct a ritual gathering, otherwise known as the MC. The MC is required to help an unprepared speaker accept an award, move to their conclusion, and exit the stage, right? So they're there to assist. A lot of times people may not know they're receiving an award, and they may not be very comfortable with speaking. The master of ceremony should have prepared an agenda that includes all the components of the event, communicate with the people who will be joining him or her on stage, incorporate time as transitions, always have a plan B, right? You never know what's going to happen in case of a contingencies, and keep the event running on time and make it look easy, right? So you want to make sure everything stays on task, stays on time, and you want to make sure that it actually looks easy and seamless. A viral message, words, sounds, or images that compel the audience to pass them along. You see certain things in commercials on the Super Bowl. You say, oh, that's really funny. I like the girl with I think it was Diet Coke. She was just dancing. She just did not look like the person that would be in a video dancing, the way she talked. And she was just different. But you know what? I liked the video. I loved her. I was like, hey, this video, makes me want to dance. I don't drink Coca-Cola, but I was like, hey, I really like this. I really like this commercial. I really like this actress and just the way that she was in the video. So it was I sent it to a bunch of people. I'm sure other people I saw when I looked up on YouTube, other people had watched it again and sent it to a lot of different people. So then, as they say, it goes viral. So if words, sounds, or images that compel the audience to pass them along and to design a viral message, consider these different factors. And it's funny too, because as not being a drinker of Coca-Cola, I'm still sending their video all around, right? You have to think about how ironic that is. Does it have an emotional appeal that people will feel compelled to share, right? So I felt compelled to share. It did have an emotional appeal to me. Yeah, even I showed it to my kids and they liked it too. Does it have a trigger? Like, does it challenge or provide novelty or incorporate humor to motivate interest? And I would say yes, it does. It does definitely provide some type of novelty and humor. From, the dance that she was doing and the way she was talking and everything. It was just really good, a viral message. And is it relevant to the audience? Well, yeah, most people do drink soft drinks. So yeah, it is relevant to the audience. I don't, but it is very, very relevant to the audience. And that's it for chapter 15. And we don't have any additional chapters to go. So make sure that you watch your lecture, that you read the chapter, completing applicable quizzes and or assignments. And if you're backed up on anything, then you need to make sure that you let me know before we get too close to us closing the semester and submitting the grades. But as always, it's been a pleasure. You guys have done really good in the class. Make sure that you continue to implement these things that you've learned out there in the real world and in some of your additional classes here. So that's it. So as always, if you need anything, please send me an email, and I'll be glad to assist you. Thanks a lot. Hopefully you're having a good day and a great week.